A man's ego is mostly based around two things: having the biggest dick and being the best driver. Since testosterone has fallen drastically in recent years, no one is willing to participate in dick measuring competitions anymore. To make up for it, a lot of guys end up trying to prove just how good of a driver they are. That flex can come in different forms, like showing off how expensive their car is, driving at insane speeds, or weaving through traffic like complete retards and not dying. That last one has actually turned into a huge trend online. You have probably seen clips of these so-called influencers recording themselves pulling off insane stunts in traffic. They are dodging cars, running red lights, and pushing limits until eventually they crash into someone, slam into each other, or get arrested by the cops. It's reckless, dangerous, and yet somehow people just seem to not get enough of it. People have been doing stupid shit on the internet since day one, but few trends have influenced real-world behavior as dangerously as the rise of these so-called swimmers. You go on Instagram or TikTok and see hundreds of these videos posted from random accounts with no followers or other content. And it's not only from people with performance cars that can handle the speed with ease. You got people with literal shitboxes swerving through traffic like they're playing GTA and can respawn. You can tell that it's gotten really bad when you see teenagers asking Reddit advice on which is a good car to cut up in traffic. These kids see those videos and think how cool they are without realizing how dangerous it actually is to swerve in public roads like that. One wrong move and you get a free ticket to meet your maker, and even worse, you can take innocent lives. People driving recklessly through traffic has always been a thing, but it was never the widespread phenomenon we see today. Without the show-off factor, the adrenaline rush just wasn't enough. What's even stranger is how this reckless weaving and high-speed lane cutting now gets labeled as street racing, even though the origins of real street racing are a completely different story. Street racing has its roots in the land of the free in the early 50s. Following World War II, returning American servicemen brought home mechanical skills and a hunger for adrenaline. With disposable income and a booming car industry, young Americans began modifying cars for performance, giving rise to the hot rods and the informal drag races. California, now the land of the rainbow people, back then was the epicenter of this emerging scene. These races took part on rural roads or deserted urban streets. They weren't racing through traffic, endangering the lives of normal people. They were simply trying to prove their car was the fastest in a somewhat respectable way. Up until the turn of the century, the street racing scene didn't change that much. Sure, the cars got a lot faster and it became accessible to more people. It was still very much an underground activity. Japan was the prime example of this. It all started in the 80s when Japan started to produce compact rear-wheel drive cars. Mountain pass races were among the first ones to emerge, as Japanese racers focused on precision driving, drifting and technical cornering over raw speed. Compared to other street racing scenes, the Japanese one was a lot more secretive, not only because of stricter laws, but also from social pressure. To be part of these racing groups, you first had to have a car that can go really fast and can handle the speed, and then go through a set of tests to prove you were a competent driver. One small mistake and you wouldn't get accepted. The Midnight Club, one of the most infamous street racing groups of the 90s, had at most 30 members at the time, so it's very clear that the Japanese were very serious when it came to street racing. Unlike today's street racing crews, these groups didn't advertise at all. Their members never posted photos and avoided anything that could compromise their anonymity. They were racing out of passion and not to show off or build an online presence, which has become the norm today. Even though these racers were very conscious about normal traffic, casualties including regular people still occurred. So if you're thinking of doing some tomfoolery in the streets, this should be a clear enough sign to not try it. If the Japanese got into accidents, so will you. The 2000s were a turning point for street racing, a time when underground car culture surged into the mainstream. Fueled by the rise of tuner culture, technical advancements, and a wave of media hype, street racing became a status symbol. You could get in with just a Civic, a big turbo and a GoPro to show everyone else all the cars you were gapping, because if you didn't film it, it didn't count. That mindset sums up modern street racing. For many, it was less about the thrill and more about the attention. But that same visibility came at a cost. Alongside the admiration of car enthusiasts, it also drew the attention of law enforcement. Cracking down on the growing phenomenon, police efforts intensified. Laws became stricter, and increased surveillance made street racing riskier than ever. As a result, many racers moved towards legal alternatives like track days or drag strips. At the same time, a new phenomenon began to appear, something that would later be called swimming. Around the late 2000s to early 2010s, YouTube videos began to surface featuring high-speed driving through public roads. These were not structured in any way, they were unfiltered, chaotic, and people loved it. The first ones to embrace this were some groups from ex-Soviet countries, swerving through traffic in the center of big cities in broad daylight. One of the most famous faces of this era was Georgy Tevzadze. Behind the wheel of his E34 M5, he'd pull off insane stunts in the middle of Tbilisi, Georgia, weaving through cars and passing police like it was nothing.
Видите патрульную тачку, ты забираешь буквально на 1,5 секунды просто для того, чтобы сказать «патруль», и все, и потом опять вот это начинается.
The only times he would slow down was to honor the cross. He kept this up for more than 3 years, with videos reaching over 10 million views, which for the time were insane numbers to pull. Up until this point, it seemed like God was on George's side. Then one day, he let one of his friends drive the M5, who crashed it into a tree, killing Georgie. He was loved by his community, but it cannot be denied that he influenced a lot of people to replicate behaviors which seemed so cool in the video. Just some silly boys playing around. And after all, nothing bad happened there, no accidents and no legal repercussions, even though they were shot in the center of a huge city filled with cops. Replicating the videos itself was still very difficult though. Making them a couple of minutes long was unattainable for 99% of people, since by the time you had a couple of clips, you would most likely have been arrested or crushed. It required a lot of effort which only a few were willing to put, as the risk to reward ratio was too high. Recently, with the increased popularity of social medias that serve short-form content like Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok, swimming has reached new heights. Everyone and their mother seem to be swerving through traffic like complete menaces, from people with performance cars to 20-year-old shitboxes. Unlike before with YouTube, which had a pretty high barrier to entry, now everyone can make swimming videos. All you need is a multi-lane highway with at least 4 to 5 lanes where people have no idea that the leftmost lane is for overtaking. You can find this in most countries and almost every US highway. That's why we see most of these videos shot in US. People have no consideration for following the rules, which makes the perfect playground for your viral swimming clip. Next, just swerve through traffic slightly faster than the speed limit, get a bit close to the cars, and exaggerate your hand movement so it seems like you pulled some clutch move. And lastly, do not crash, which on US highways should be easy enough since most people drive like NPCs and are generally predictable, but they still have that element of surprise inside them which should keep things entertaining.
Oh my God.
All of this has created a very dangerous online environment. When normal people repeatedly see others speeding through highways or narrowly avoiding accidents, it creates a false sense of excitement around this behavior, and it sort of normalizes this dangerous driving style. Viewers, particularly young or inexperienced drivers, may begin to believe that such actions are acceptable. The lack of consequences shown in the videos masks the true dangers and leads others to think they too can get away with it. Another issue is the psychological effect of viral content. Videos that show fast driving through traffic often receive thousands or even millions of views. This virality creates a reward system where the more dangerous or outrageous the driving, the more attention the driver receives. As a result, others who seek online fame may try to replicate or even outdo what they've seen, pushing the limits further and further. And these are not organized groups. These are just normal people that one beautiful day decide to turn into a complete menace in traffic just because they saw a similar video the day before. And when we thought it couldn't get any worse, there are now content creators with their whole niche being swimming. What used to be just reckless stunts for bragging rights has now turned into full-blown content creation. Some of these drivers aren't just uploading random clips here and there. They are posting weekly, even daily, building audiences in the hundreds of thousands. They collaborate with other swimmers for joint videos, they plan routes, time the traffic, and sometimes even set up chase cars with GoPros to get multiple angles. It's not just chaos anymore, it's produced chaos. And of course, once the audience is there, the money follows. You'll see them dropping merch lines or even monetize directly through ads or sponsorships. The wilder the clip, the more views it gets. The more views, the more money. A pretty fucked up loop. The problem is, this makes swimming look like a career path, a lifestyle, something you can make it big doing. And for every one of these influencers making cash, there are thousands of people trying to copy them, thinking they can turn a couple of risky lane changes into fame and profit. That's when you see the dangerous escalation. People pushing harder, taking bigger risks, all for one viral moment. What started as a rare, almost underground stunt culture is now a content machine. And the bigger it gets, the more it encourages newcomers to dive in, literally turning public highways into racetracks for likes, followers, and merch sales.